All right, so recording and let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. It's Claytano. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. And we are back here joined by my friend X Scoundrel. Hello, X Scoundrel. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah, just managed to get my baby to go to sleep after about 60 hours of crying. Uh, and now I'm really excited to do this tier list with you because I know it's something that we want to do like weekly or fortnightly, depending on when the updates come out. And I know that, as we continue to play at a high level, we want to make sure that we deliver the crucial information to you guys, our viewers. So I'm really excited to sort of see what's changed because we have had some changes, and then both of us have played a bit higher level, so we kind of have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that are kind of new to the channel as well, if you don't already know, we did already post a tier list, synergy tier list about 2 weeks ago now. And we do kind of want to make this, like you said, a regular thing. So anytime something changes in the game, we'll have that updated for you as quick as possible with both of our minds kind of put together, which we feel like kind of makes a better tier list and a more accurate tier list because we have two different perspectives going at it. But yeah, like I said, there has been a couple changes. Nothing too crazy, but as you guys can see here, this is the tier list that we made previously, and I know that I want to make some changes, but we'll kind of just go down the list
Mm.
in order here and talk about the changes that we do want to make. We want to keep these videos though kind of concise for the most part, since there's no changes. But if you guys do want to see like the reasoning behind some of the other synergies that we've posted, definitely go watch Scoundrel's video because I'm also on that. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to him as well, as I've told you guys many times already.
And if you haven't subscribed to Claytano, which you're watching on his channel, so you bloody well should do, make sure you hit the bell as well, because that tells you when all of his videos go live, and you don't want to miss a Claytano video,
Oh
because
yes.
they're pretty lit. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, let's just go through it here. So we'll just start at S plus. Um,
Okay.
so for S plus knights, hunters, and mages, I really feel like there's honestly no change there. Those are definitely the top three tiers in the game, and they're the most viable end game builds as well.
I agree. I'm starting to feel like mages are poking their heads a little bit above, but then I realize that knights are just going to counter them. So it's like I've seen a couple of mage builds, especially the dragon mage builds that have been floating around recently, that have started to become more popular. And they have a better matchup versus knights. But overall, I just don't think there can be any change at the top of the platform right now. Those are just the three major kind of like synergies. And when we talk about these synergies, we don't mean that is the entire composition. I would say when I talk about knights, I think knights dragons and knights glacier is going to be your top tier S's. Hunters with cave clan or druids, I guess, would be your top tier hunter compositions. And then mages with practically anything that you want to have as a front line. But any extra humans like werewolf and pirate captain are always going to be good for the silences.
Right, exactly. So these are just like your main uh the meat of your builds, but then there's
Yeah,
always going to be those sub synergies that you want to pair with them, of course. So
yeah.
yeah, really good point there. But as far as the main ones, I would say all those still S plus tier, and they kind of like almost rock paper scissors around each other. Like I feel like
Yeah.
mages counter
Hunters, yeah.
hunters, and then knights counter mages,
Mages.
and then I guess hunters counter knights for the most
So
part.
six hunters would six. I think six hunters can beat knights. I don't think three hunters can beat knights, but I think six hunters can beat knights.
Yeah,
I think six hunters can practically beat anything in the game. If I'm completely honest with you,
that's kind
uh,
of what I'm feeling. Honestly, right now I feel like hunters are just like the powerhouse, and I play them a lot, obviously on stream and in my videos. And the only way to counter them is really just to be way more fed than they are. But once you get a full six hunter build, it's like I mean, there's so many different ways of positioning them. There's so many other little extra pieces that you can put in to just make them basically viable in any situation. So
Yeah, yeah, and you can run Cave Clan with Storm Shaman, and you get a good matchup versus mages if you
yeah,
split up as well. So I mean, hunters are, in my eyes, are so flexible and so powerful at six hunters that they almost go into that tier above by themselves. But they still can get shut down by mages. They can still, lose in the early game pretty heavily as well. So it's or if you just don't find that sixth hunter, remember it relies on a legendary. So
yeah.
some
So that's
some
what
people
kind of
just aren't.
keeps it grounded a little bit.
Yes, whereas
Where
mages
knights and
and knights
mages,
don't rely on. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah. Cool. So we're definitely on the same page there for the top tier. S tier with warriors and feathered. I'm almost thinking like I want to move a couple things around here, like between S, A, and B, maybe.
Yeah, so I would like to move goblins up. Um, just personally, I know it relies on Devastator. Um, but they are so good early game, and I feel like I kind of underrate early game power sometimes. And we've seen so many high level players just play goblin mechs, or even just have mechs with a as a front line for other synergies.
Yeah.
Um,
I would agree with that. That's actually the one thing that I was thinking of too. And we don't like pre-talk about this stuff before videos, guys. Like this is just, off the cuff almost. But yeah, I think we have the same idea there, putting goblins up because they, once they get Devastator and like are paired with warlocks, they're pretty unstoppable. So
yeah.
you just have to play them the right way. But they have the potential to be extremely strong. And if we're putting hunters up there that are reliant on Tsunami Stalker, it's pretty unfair that we, can't give the same credit to Goblin mechs at S tier at least.
I still think warriors are good, and I still think warriors are one of the most consistent strategies out there because there are so many cheap warriors, and it's
Mm.
really, really easy to get yourself a powerful warrior composition. But I'm looking at feathered, hmm, like I think feathered spike really hard mid game, and then I think like okay, feathered can beat assassins pretty easily, but they lose to hunters, six hunters especially, really hard because obviously hunters are specifically designed to counter evasion, and that's all that feathered have got going for them. And I've started to see that they haven't even like they're even starting to struggle versus knights as well. And I'm thinking, is that an S tier build or is that just a good build like at that you can get from mid game? And I'm starting to think feathered should maybe go down to A because I still think they're good. I just don't think they're like as good.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that too. I've messed around with a bunch of feathered builds, and it used to be one of my favorite builds. But now that people are starting to get a little bit better at the game and start learning more, they're 100% falling off. But I would want to actually probably put Dragon and Glacier up to S.
I actually agree because originally I was skeptical about Dragon because obviously most Dragon builds require a tier 2 Dragon Knight, and it really only used to be tagged on to Knights. But now you can tag Dragons into Mages and you can tag Dragons into Feathered, and that kind of makes those compositions extra powerful. So I really like the addition of Dragons and the fact that Glacier is integral to make Knights S plus tier. And you can also throw it in
With
warrior
warriors
compositions
too,
really
yeah.
easy. I think Glacier and Dragons deserve to be S. I think Beasts are good, but I think that Beasts are there to support warriors as opposed to being a good synergy in their own right. So I'm happy to leave Beasts where they are.
Yeah, I think Beast, Feathered, and even Druid, I guess, is kind of in the same boat. They're
Mm,
all like support synergies that are extremely good, but just kind
yeah.
of like a bonus that you just happen to get. And I think
Uh, yeah.
Erisys is kind of in that same boat as well.
Yeah, I think feathered. I think is more useful as a three feathered combo in lots of different builds. Especially when paired with druids, because druids have two feathered that you can throw into almost any build. I think druids by themselves are garbage apart from Razorclaw, but they are so adaptable, which is what makes them A tier for me. Like you can have druids as a front line in infinite number of builds. Like you can always rely on druids to have a really
Yeah,
good
I
front line.
mean, you could do
I'm
Druid Glacier, you could do Druid Dragon, you could do Druid
druid.
Hunter Mage.
So yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so good, and I think I'm waiting for Drodo to buff Warpwood Sage to the Dota Auto Chess counterpart of having an extra 400 HP
Mm,
at level 3, because right now I feel like Warpwood Sage is in such a crappy position because he's just not tanky enough. Like he's just for a guy with a 2 attack speed, he's just not tanky enough.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for him to potentially get buffed. But
So
I still
still though, still A tier though.
yeah,
Before that.
because well, Razor Claw makes it, right? Razor Claw just makes druids.
Yeah.
Like he is just such an adaptable unit that you can throw in almost any build. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's good for A tier, and then B tier. I'm I'm kind
I want
of
to move the
like,
guesses up. I want to move the
yeah.
guesses up one
I think
because
that's
it's
something
just
that a
so
lot of people have
good.
said too about our last one, and I kind of
Yeah.
agree with it. Especially with so many people running warriors, it's such a good counter to warriors,
Mm.
and I mean it's adaptable in a few different comps, such as knights and hunters with the Aegis Ranger or the Evil Knight. You could just
Mhm.
throw it in there and have a huge power spike just by having that alone.
It's incredibly good early game as well. We sometimes overlook how good we were often rating things about how they're good late game, but it's incredibly good early game. The two I guess is bonuses. It's so achievable for so many builds because Soul Reaper is a great unit by himself, and then also as you've shown in a couple of videos, Blight Sorcerer can come in really useful against some of the top tier builds right now, and that's also an Agursis Mage. So you've got you've got a lot of adaptability with the Gurses, and it can be thrown in in numerous numbers of compositions. So I think I agree with I like the way that SNA. It may look like we are estimating builds very highly right now, guys, but it is kind of like how I feel in terms of the way the meta is. There is lots of good builds that you can go right now.
Yeah, but you just kind of, it's more of the pairing, I think, that
Mm.
finalizes the build. But for B tier, I used to really like assassins. I used to think those would be a lot higher, but they're just kind of lackluster for me right now.
I think the problem with assassins, and the problem with assassins always will be, if you aren't snowballing them, if you haven't got a level 2 Skybreaker by round 5 or sorry, not Skybreaker, Soulbreaker by round 5 or 6, like you're just not going to get off the ground. And then they lose to so many. They lose to mages. They lose to hunters late game. They lose to knights. Like assassins dominate the mid game, but if you haven't got like 5 to 6 2-star assassins by round 20 to 25, you're done.
Yeah.
You'll never come back. You just won't come back. Um, and you have to have to even make it more viable. You have to have the druids as a front line because you need the feathered bonus with your phantom assassin and your shining assassin, your shadow crawler and your shining assassin.
Right.
There is I think there is too many stipulations to make assassins work, and then to be even be viable late game, you've got to 3-star them,
Yeah.
like to even be viable, and that's the problem with assassins. It snowballs, and it will dominate every build until the late game, and then you'll just lose if you haven't already won. So if you've got to Black Dragon King and you haven't won the game, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, and then even with the Abyssal Crawler nerf now too, with the
Mm,
cooldown, it's it's still good, but it's just not as dominant. I think having the
sure.
Abyssal Crawler kind of made Assassins a little better, but I don't know. I feel like they're maybe still okay in B tier. I don't know if I want to move them down. Do
I
you?
would I wouldn't move them down. They're still a solid synergy, and it can still get you top 3, but I just don't think assassins are consistent enough for me. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. So then mechs though. With mechs, they kind of just go hand in hand with goblins. Like you
They're
almost,
like Goblin's crappy little brother.
yeah. Like you can't really build goblins without even building mechs because they just all go together. But
Mech synergy is great early game, but let's be frank, like it's all Goblin. Like Goblin is the synergy that wins you the game if you're building mechs. It's not mechs.
right.
Even if you get a helicopter in the field, that thing ain't winning you the game.
Just like
It's
it's hunters that wins you a game instead of like Cave Clan or
okay, fine, yeah.
Druid or whatever it might be. Okay, so then we could leave those there at B. Uh, C tier with demon and human. I actually tried a full 6 human comp just to
How
see how it would be.
how did
And,
it go?
it was in one of my Smurf accounts, so it wasn't like the highest level gameplay. It did okay, but I could just tell if the other people knew what they were doing, it would be very lackluster.
Yeah, I'm looking at demons and humans right now, and I'm thinking actually the new demon build, like Fallen Witcher, has suddenly become one of the hot, like quite a hotly contested unit. It's just really good. But is that the Witcher build or is that the demon build? That's the that's the that's the funny
Honestly,
thing.
I feel like I want to move demons down. I've tried so many more times to build a demon comp, and it's so dependent on just high rolling, like getting so lucky on
Mm,
your rolls.
you need to
Otherwise,
you need to three-star Fallen Witcher, otherwise your demon build just sucks.
yeah, I mean, you need a 3 star, like almost all of your demons, which trying to rely on that, you need to be so far ahead where, you have just an insane amount of gold to continuously roll, and
Yeah,
it's rough. So I don't
I
know. I
agree.
feel
I
like I want
agree.
to move them down to D and move some of these up to C.
Sure, I think move demons down. I think the Witcher build is good, but then I'm basically all I'm saying really there is that Fallen Witcher's good, not demons as a whole. Fallen Witcher's just a good unit.
Right.
Um, I like, by the way, my opinions on human is that they're a really incredible sub strategy, but no one would ever intentionally build them. Like it's really good to have humans. And I think the silences, I'm sure you've played many games where you're playing against mages or knights and your key unit gets silenced by a human and you're like, for bloody hell. And you get really annoyed, but they're a sub strategy. No one ever decides to build humans. You just kind of get humans with your other strategies, you know?
Right. But I feel like that's the same thing with Egersis, and I feel like it's
Yeah, but
almost
okay.
equally as
Yeah,
important,
but
but maybe
let let let
not.
let me coin it like this, and you can see whether you agree or not.
Okay.
Egg assist, I would actively add something like a Soul Reaper into my composition to achieve that, even if the Soul Reaper didn't actively fit my overall composition. I want to activate that Agersis bonus.
Yeah.
Humans, I'm playing knights where I would probably just pick up Argali and Dragon Knight anyway because they're knights. Or I'm playing humans where I've got the Source, I've got Tortola Elder, I've got Flaming Wizard, and even those guys just activated by themselves. And then I would throw a frontline in that sometimes just happens to include humans, like Pirate Captain, because he's a great unit and the CC is invaluable for mage compositions. Um, I feel like it's something that is great, but you just kind of get it with the other builds. You would never actively choose a unit to say I've activated the 2 human bonus.
Right.
Um,
Unless it was like
you just
super early game, you just happen to come across something. I can get behind that. Plus, I feel like overall, 2 Egersis bonus is just so much more helpful than 2 human bonus.
I
You
mean,
could
you
rely
can
on it. You
control
can't rely on this.
exactly, exactly. You can control Agersis. If your humans jump to the wrong target and silence a completely random target like that, you just like ah. I know you can control it in the late game, but for the majority, like you don't have that much control over the humans and kind of what they're targeting. I
Right.
do think it's a good synergy. I do think the actual synergy that it provides is brilliant, but I don't think you ever actively choose a unit because it is a human. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, but I feel like maybe putting them up to B still, because I feel like they
Yeah,
are super important. Even late game, like a single human silence could be, it could win you the game, or it could lose you the
yeah,
game.
yeah, I agree. I think I don't think A, but I think like B because they are important. But I just don't think you'd ever actively choose to build them. They
Right.
just they're just important because they come with some of the good synergies already.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree. Now for C, I actually want to move Cave Clan up at least.
I don't even think we need to talk about it. I think that's a yes from me. They buffed it. Storm Shaman got a buff. Storm Shaman's suddenly becoming an incredibly useful unit. People are seeing how useful it can be, even versus hunters. We're starting to see how important Storm Shaman can be. So yeah, I think Cave Clan's good.
Yeah, and super important early game as well. So
Mhm.
maybe, yeah, C. I'm kind of thinking if I want to move
I
up
would like to move it to
more.
B, but because it's the other build that can contest mechs in the other game.
You want to move it to B?
I want to move it into B.
Okay. And I think I want to move some of these down. I think I want to move. Well, Druid and Feather. Oops. I think Druid and Feather I want to move down.
I don't want to move Druid and Feather down because I think they're infinitely better than Cave Clan and Human. Like Like you could actively add a feathered bonus and it would be useful. And druids are so adaptable and so good at snowballing into 3 stars.
I think Beast and Aegis on the same level is definitely makes sense.
Add another tier. Can we like add another tier in between A and B?
We can add another tier at the top and spread it out more.
All right, do that because I think things are a little bit clumped up right now, and we need to separate things out a little bit because there are some that are just better than others.
Let's add real puff. So this would be S plus
Plus,
plus. There we go. Okay, so we added another tier. Let me just make sure that it looks okay. Yeah, it's fine. So we added another tier. I'm going to go ahead and move this up. And I don't know if I want to move these up.
you don't.
You want to? Okay, maybe move them up.
I think that, like we said, there's a rock paper scissors going on there, and I think you can position hunters to beat mage. Actually, no. Do move knights and yeah, move knights, and I think hunters are just the best composition in the game.
I think they're just so adaptable, early to mid game to late game. I feel like they just bring way more than these.
But how do we separate S and A out now? Because I don't think warriors and
Because that's
goblins
all
and
we.
dragon.
Well, let's move.
Add another row.
Let's
Add
move
another.
these
Okay, yeah.
down
Let's
here.
go down. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Move these down here. Right?
Okay, now we can decide. Leave that as it is. That's good.
Okay, and then I think I want to do this.
I am. Are you really telling me that Agursis is better than Feathered and Druids?
It can be. We'll see. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place now. Okay, let's do feathered with Aegis. I don't think Druid in itself.
Okay, like it doesn't. The synergy doesn't do anything, right?
Right.
But it's so adaptable. It is so adaptable. I actually think I would actually move Agursis level with humans. I think it's good, and I love adding it to compositions, but I don't think it like strictly wins you games.
It's better than Beast in my opinion.
Beast, I can get behind Beast because Beast only works with warriors. Like you can't add Beast to almost anything else. You can sometimes add Beast to hunters, but like for the majority, like it's Beast warrior. That is the composition.
I think I like this right here.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Poor assassin. Assassins on the same level as Cave Clan.
I,
Oh God.
I don't know if I agree with that though. Let's move assassins back up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is. I can happily live with how this looks right now.
Yeah, I think we're doing better. And I think I
Yeah.
want to move warlocks up. Or
I want to move spirits up.
I was thinking I actually want to move marine up.
Marine is it? Oh God.
As a
I
mage
don't know.
counter.
Yeah, but
But
like
not like something you would want to go for, obviously.
okay, let me ask how many builds you can fit Marine into and actively be happy about it.
Hunter for sure.
Yep,
Warrior.
yep,
Assassin.
yep.
I mean, you could honestly put Tsunami Stalker and Siren into a lot
What
of
level would you
comps.
what level would you need to be to get Tsunami Stalker and Siren into other compositions whilst not ruining the composition?
Probably 9.
Yeah, 9 or 10, right?
Yeah,
I
9 or 10.
think having a synergy that relies on 9 to work is bad.
Doesn't necessarily rely on 9 or 10, but you probably want to get there in order to put them in. Just it's pretty situational, I guess, depending on
Mm.
who you're fighting
It's
against.
it's just like it is a situational addition. Whereas I just think spirits are imperative. Like the spirits are so good for loose streaking, and spirits. I wouldn't say that the four spirit bonus is that good. It counters warriors pretty heavily, but it sucks versus everything else. I'll count as some knights as well. But like if you're loose streaking and you want to beat neutral creep rounds, you need spirits. Like there is very little other way other than snowballing some 2 stars whilst loose streaking, which is hard to beat neutral creep rounds. And I think spirits. I also think spirits are just as good early game as K Plan.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I can get behind Cave Clan and Spirits being on the same level because they're kind of like you would build them mainly around the same time, and they're kind of the same impact throughout the entire game. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay, and then Warlock, Marine, Demon. I feel like Demon and Warlock are great together, like building them together,
I think Warlock goes well into goblins. I think Warlock goes well into some warrior builds, and that's about it.
and demons if you're building full
Yeah,
demons.
and if you're building demons, the problem with Warlocks is that all of the units like don't they all go into such different compositions that you have to actively like crowbar bad warlocks in for a lot of the cases. And to get a good warlock build that you feel happy about, you want Dark Spirit, which is another legendary, so
Right. Yeah, so I think Warlocks are fine there with Marine, and then Shaman down at E. I still agree with that.
yeah, it's still good versus some neutral creep rounds. Although to be honest with you, I have never built it ever.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I don't really focus on it. It's good in some
How is
situations, maybe with Glacier,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's not even really that super important. Same thing with Witcher and Kira. I think we're in the same spot there still. Nothing's really changed with them to
Yeah,
make them
yeah.
much better.
Problem is that the only person that gives Kira buff is probably the worst unit in the game. So,
Yeah,
like,
but
why
it's
would you ever force that into a composition? I mean, it's kind of good in six mages, right? But because it gives you a tanky frontliner. But why would you ever add it to anything else for the Kira bonus? In fact,
yeah,
you're not even adding Ogre Mage for the or Augur Mage for the Kira bonus. You're adding it for the Mage bonus. So
right, exactly. So I think it's just kind of, I think it's fine there. And then the main thing that a lot of people talked about our last synergy list was dwarf not being in there,
yes,
and we kind of talked about it a little bit because dwarf isn't really a synergy. It doesn't even give a
no,
bonus to his other team like Kira does. It only buffs the one dwarf that's on the board, and there's only two different dwarfs. But you're never gonna build dwarf to build dwarf. It just kind of happens. You're basically saying I like to put sniper in a hunter composition, so dwarf is OP. No, dwarf is it's just dwarf sniper. Like he gets that huge range. That's just how he.
yeah.
That's just that unit himself.
It,
Even same thing with
it's such a
helicopter.
stupid synergy. Like it's not even a synergy. I don't even know why it exists.
It's not.
If you want to rate Dwarf, you're basically rating Helicopter as a unit and Dwarf Sniper as a unit, which both of them are great units, but doesn't make Dwarf good. It's just because the units that are Dwarf are good.
Right. And they're not even mainly good because of dwarf. Like, yeah, it definitely helps both of those units because they can just sit in the corners and shoot everything on the map almost. But if they need to come out of the if they didn't even have that dwarf synergy, they would just come out of the corner a little bit and still shoot people. Like it wouldn't be
Exactly.
that crazy even still. So I think not even putting them on the synergy list is probably still the best thing because it's not a synergy. It's just
I
a
agree.
bonus to those two units separately.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think this is good again. We actually made a lot more changes than I thought we were going to make, but
I'm
I
happy with it.
think
I'm
I'm
happy
pretty
with it.
happy with the way it looks.
I like that we separated out hunters because they are just the best synergy by actually quite a significant margin, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's it's just there's so many ways that you can build them with any front line. You can do three hunters, you can do six hunters. Obviously, is the goal, but even if you don't happen to be getting them, you could still substitute that front line with so many other options: knights, warriors, druids, spirits, even like you can goblins, mechs. You could put anything frontline and slowly transition into full six hunters with basically anything tanky as well. So, yep, I agree with that.
I think this is a good tier list. I think you're never going to be able to build hunters in your games now. So, are you sure you want to publish this video?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna publish this video. I mean, there's a reason why I play hunters almost
Mm.
exclusively. I try to play other things to be able to make tier lists like this, so that way I can get an idea of strength of the other things. But I really feel like hunters are just most consistently the best. Mages are extremely strong and have a huge high power cap, but getting them to where they are, getting them to that cap is kind of difficult. And same thing with knights as well. So
Thing is, I can throw 3 hunters on in the early game and be really happy. If I threw 3 mages on in the early game, I'm losing every round that I play with them.
yeah, exactly. 100% you're losing because there's no low cost mages.
No, no good ones anyway. And you need
Hmm.
a 2-star Thunder Spirit if you're trying to play mages early game, and
Which
that's
is
hard to
a
do.
3 cost unit. That's like trying
Exactly.
to 2-star a Golly Knight or Evil Knight. It just doesn't really happen that often very
Mm.
quickly.
Whereas I can take a 1-star Dwarf Sniper, a 1-star Wind Ranger, and then literally either Skull Hunter or a Gersis Ranger, and I've got 35 attack damage extra on all of my hunters,
Yeah.
and it's actually really strong.
Yeah. And then
Post
you get
level.
like a couple 2-star warriors up front or a couple 2-star
Mm,
knights up front. Obviously, it's easier to do warriors in the early game, and you're going to be winning a lot of your rounds just by doing that alone.
I agree. I agree.
So, yeah, well, hey, I think that's about it. We could probably wrap it up here. Did you have any final thoughts?
No, I think this is a good tier list. I think again, listening to our thoughts will help you kind of understand where we place them. But if you're looking at this as a blanket kind of picture, then yeah, hunters are just the best. So
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. And if you guys are watching and have not yet subscribed to him, be sure to check him out. I'll post his links down in the description below as well as a comment on this video. And if you guys have your comments or opinions on the tier list, feel free to put them out there. Obviously, this is just our 2 opinions put together and a good guide to live by. But obviously, not like everything's set in stone. And this is 100% what you need to be doing every single game because everything is situational in this, which makes the game great. So even though we say hunters are S++ tier, that doesn't mean they can't be beat by a demon team or something lower down the list. So
if you high roll, you can beat anything. I won a game of Rook 1 ranked by playing a Flaming Wizard build, so you can win anything, guys.
yeah, but in general, this is probably just out there to help you try to build the synergies that have a higher chance of winning without high
Yeah.
rolling. But yeah, aside from that, thank you so much, guys, for watching. Ex Scoundrel, appreciate the insight as well as always. And aside from that, stay soupy, don't be potatoes, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Oh, am I saying goodbye as well? Bye, guys.
I was waiting for it. I was like, I think you can say goodbye. All right, see you guys.